What's up, everyone? This is the DFS Cash Game DraftKings preview with your boys. I'm Keith Flemming, joined by Joe the Brain Matz. He's proudly sporting the Chicago Bulls hat. Now, how things have changed. How about me? I'm a real fan. I'm sporting these sorry ass Falcons. But hope you guys are doing well. Sorry we're late. We've had technical difficulties has been the theme today. Joe, how about my NFL main slate preview? This is the second time I've done this in the time since I've been writing. Did the entire article. I think it was like 2,000 words, and it somehow logged out on me. Did not hit draft. All gone.
That's brutal.
It's the worst. Because I've got now where I put time into the writing, you know what I mean? Where I'm just like,
right.
And real it's my fault. I should have hit save draft. Like, it's something that I know, like, as you go, just save draft. That way, at least whenever it logs out, you might just, lose a paragraph or something. But no, I decided to do the entire article and then lose it.
I become a Google Drive addict just because whatever I type in there, it's going to automatically save it for me because...
Oh, I may have to start maybe writing.
I remember back in the day when I would blog and stuff, and it would be like, I put in all this work. It's like, no, but nobody's fucking reading this. And so at least you're writing stuff that someone's going to read. But yeah, I remember I'd put in all this time, and then a couple of times I didn't save it. There was some problem, and I was like, well, that was hours of work.
Yep.
Cool.
Stupid
Great.
WordPress.
Love it.
I mean, really, again, it's my fault, but I want to have something to blame. So stupid.
No, it shouldn't fuck up. That's not your fault. But always blame technology. That's the one thing that I will get. I feel like all my pent up anger at like people, I'm fine with people most of the time. If they piss me off, it's like, you know what? It's all right. But man, if any technology messes up, I want to yell at it. I have to fight myself not to like punch my laptop a few times every week. Maybe it's a problem, but
no, I love it. It's good to know what team you're going to be on, Joe, when Terminator becomes a documentary. Joe's going to be the first one rising up against machines, which good for you, Joe. Baby. We're going to need those people. But anyway, it's week 10. We had a good week last week, Joseph. I am kicking myself for not listening to you on T. Higgins because I had basically a lineup in 2 contests that scored 206 points with Kamani Vidal pulling me 3. So
he murdered us. He really did. He was the one thing really holding us back last. My issue was not listening to you enough on Brock Bowers, which is like a lesson
it was the slate
learned by now. But yeah, that's true. It was the other tight ends kind of didn't come through. Tucker Kraft got hurt, so that was obviously terrible.
I mean, it was the highest PPR performance of the year. And when that happens, if you don't have him, you're in like good luck trying to cash, especially when it's a player like that, right? Like that a lot of people are going to own anyway. And the takeaway may be after last night, I mean, I know how great Bowers is. Don't get me wrong. I'll talk about that all day, but it may be the Jags are truly that bad. Versus tight ends, right? That he just was able to do whatever he wanted. They're 31st versus tight ends anyway. I think they had allowed 4 touchdowns in the previous 5 games to tight ends. So this was not like a short sample size. That's good for Dalton Schultz. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later. The QBs this week, I'm not going to lie, Joe. I was going to say, man, are we really here again? And, I've gone all in with Jackson Dart. He has been my quarterback in every lineup for the last 3 weeks. I've had my 2 best weeks of the year. I think he's just the most consistent thing in the world. I don't get why his price, is not going up. 18.6 points or more every game this season. 5 of 6 of his starts, he has both a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. 50-plus rushing yards and 4 or 6. He's averaging 23 points per game as a starter, almost 25, 24.9 over his last 4. And on this slate, there's all of 2 QBs who average more points per game than Dart. And there's 14 quarterbacks priced higher than him. Dart's 17.3 points per game on DraftKings. You pointed this out a couple of weeks ago. Includes 2 games where he played a handful of snaps, and he got literally 0 points. So he is averaging on DraftKings 17 points per game with 2 of his 8 starts getting a donut. Like, that is insane. And like other Russian quarterbacks, over 9 points per game with his legs this season. He's had at least 7.1 with his legs every game this year, which that's again up to 6 starts. That's big. I am concerned, and now there's an expensive guy. I'm still going to play Dart, don't get me wrong, but it is supposed to be pretty bad weather for this game. Obviously, it's not as big of a deal because of his rushing capability, right? Like what he's doing with his legs. Yeah. But it does concern me that the game, like the bigger concern is Chicago doesn't score a lot of points. And if that happens, like we saw it last week with Dart, he was not having a great fantasy game until like the fourth quarter. And then he went from having like 10 points to 27. And that's the great part about these running quarterbacks. They can do that in the blink of an eye. You know, a 20-yard touchdown run, that's 8 points right there. So I really do still like Dart. The other guy, though, for me is Lamar. You're getting him indoors. He feels underpriced at 6,800. And then I'm just fascinated to see what the Vikings defense does this week because they blitz at the second highest rate in the NFL, 43%. And Lamar ranks first in passer rating and success rate facing the blitz this season. And since last year, his 0.42 EPA per dropback when facing the blitz ranks first among all QBs. And Brian Flores is the kind of guy typically it's like, look, this is what I do. Here you go. I think there's a good chance Lamar could have a monster game indoors at 6,800. The only concern I have about this play is can J.J. McCarthy do enough on the Minnesota side versus a Baltimore team defense that's getting a lot better to force, you know, the Ravens to kind of keep the pedal down. But I still think Lamar at 6,800 is a great play. So I'm going to have basically those two quarterbacks in all my lineups. Who are you looking at this week?
I mean, yeah, no surprise. I'm very in on Dart yet again. Like you said, you've got a bunch of guys priced higher than him who, when you remove the 2 games that he didn't start, that he played, I think, a total of 5 plays.
He scored 0 points in one, or no, excuse me, 0.3 points in one and negative 0.3 points in the other.
Right. And the consistency has been kind of crazy, really, when you think about kind of, you know, what most people thought of him going into the draft, which is like
what's happened to your poor team, Joe.
Is he a first rounder? And then you're down Bellinger, who was a major part. I haven't actually checked if Bellinger's supposed to be back yet, but you know, second tight end, but became a major part of the offense because Malik Neighbors is out. Slayton was out a number of weeks. You know, knock on wood. You know, again, most important person, Andrew Thomas, has been there for every one of his starts. So hopefully that continues, because that would be the one thing. Like anyone else could get hurt, and I'm like, you know what? I still want to play him. I want to see. And if Andrew Thomas goes down, then I'm out. You know, God's.
Why are they not raising his price, Joe, at this point? Like, what is going on?
I don't know. Because again,
the ownership was 15 to 25%.
Right.
In the lineups and again, it was every one of them last week. So I'm talking about, you know, that was over, I think, 6 or 7 contests. 15 to 25%. And most of them were closer to 15%. I don't understand that. Right. Like, this is literal value. Like, you can't. Right. And of course, the train's going to end at some time, but I'm going to ride it until then.
Right. Or to be, as long as he's under 6K, I don't know who I'm not starting him against. You know, it's not like, sure, if the Texans magically suddenly appeared on the schedule, I'd be like, all right, maybe this is the step back. But 6 straight weeks, 18 or more points. And then 3 of the last 4 have been in the 20s. And those were not against, you know, obviously San Francisco we were targeting last week because we said
one of them was Denver. It's one of the best defenses in the league.
Denver and Philly. And Philly's 2 of the last 4 games.
Yeah,
and
that's twice.
His low point game there is 19. So, again, the consistency has been there. We've had games where he's dropped back and thrown 40 passes against New Orleans. We've had games like the first Philly game where he only threw 25 passes. The Chargers game, his first start, 20 passes. And because he, like you said, he's going to give us like 7 points running, he gets you to 18, 19 no matter what. And again, the number you always give us, which has always made sense to me, triple his cost. That's the goal for every single guy we put in our lineup. If we don't think they can do that,
that's their floor. That's the way I look at it, right? That's the floor.
Yeah.
Like they have to get that. And then obviously you need some boom plays, but what kills you?
Right.
Like when you don't cash, it's like one or two guys scoring well below their point total because it basically negates, right? Like, your guys that go off.
And again, this is his highest price of the season, $5,700. If we triple that, we get 17.1. He's cleared it by over a point every single week. And he's playing the Bears, which the one danger with the Bears.
Don't forget that part.
The one danger with the Bears is they have forced turnovers at the highest rate in the league. Turnovers per offensive possession.
He's not been turning it over, though, has he?
Right. He has not really been turning it over. And when you consider how many points the Bears give up, despite all the turnovers they've forced. Again, last week, picked off Joe Flacco twice. Nice. Doesn't do much when you give up 470 yards and 4 touchdowns in the air. The Ravens, one game they didn't there weren't any turnovers. Lamar comes back. Or no, Lamar didn't even play that one, right?
Yeah, that was Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley comes in. Tyler Huntley, 50 yards on the ground, didn't turn it over. Solid game. They had 3 picks against the Cowboys, Raiders, and Saints. Still gave up multiple touchdown passes in 2 of those. 4 of their last 5, they've given up multiple touchdown passes. The only one they didn't do that to, Tyler Huntley, who, again, 50 yards on the ground. Commanders game, 50 yards on the ground. Raiders game, Geno's, not even a real scrambler, 30 yards on the ground.
But why is that, Joe? Because they're blitzing 43% of the right. Excuse me. Yeah, that's getting them mixed up there. But, I'm with you. I think it's a lock that he's going to – because, again, the weather concerns me with the ceiling, but he's the perfect kind of quarterback that doesn't really matter the weather. He's going to score points. No, and it may actually mean he runs more,
there'll be
right?
the adjustment. Right.
Yeah.
The only fear is obviously like he runs one too many times and something goes bad.
I worry about that
obviously
with you, buddy, and your luck.
As a Giants fan, I am certainly on edge a fair amount of the time with that. I think, like you said, Lamar at 6,800 again. This is the guy who really in the regular season the last 2 years was playing at the highest level of any quarterback
and making it look easy.
And for all the, obviously this has not been the ideal season for the Ravens. The Kansas City game is the only game he hasn't given us what we've needed in fantasy. Every other game, last week was his worst week fantasy-wise outside of the KC game. Put up 25. Sure, it's against the Dolphins. They suck.
Well, they blew him out, though. That was the thing, right?
Right. But again, he faced the Lions defense. That's one of the best defenses in the NFL, 27 points. Browns defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL, 26 points. Buffalo has not really consistently been a great defense, but we did just see them kind of manhandle the Kansas City.
Yep.
29 points in that week 1 shootout.
And that was with Derrick Henry running for 5,000 yards.
Right. So to me, that makes a ton of sense. Honestly, I don't hate any of these like higher priced guys. Because when I go through, Josh Allen against Miami, maybe that feels probably more like a James Cook game, but Miami's so bad that can always work out. And we got Josh Allen. Stafford against San Francisco.
Especially it looks like Puka's going to play too.
Right. And look what happened the last time these two teams played. He had, that was a total shootout. That was one of his better games. Although, again, another guy where he has that one game against Baltimore where, they only score 17 points. That was kind of a weird game. Lamar's not playing in that game, so there's less pressure on the offense.
Yep.
The other 4 games in the last month and a half, 26.8, his lowest score. Against the Niners, 30 of 47, 389. Now, does he end up throwing 47 passes again? Probably not. But again, this is a Niners defense that is getting more banged up. Their offense is starting to get healthier, which hopefully means we do get another shootout. Defense is not, again, Fred Warner's not coming back. Bosa's not coming back.
They just lost their rookie, too, from Georgia, Mikael Williams. He's done for the year.
So Stafford,
they can't catch a break.
No, and again, Kyle Shanahan, it just goes, he should have been coach of the year Brian Daboll won.
Yep.
Because that was the year that Brock Purdy was like, wait, the last pick in the draft, and they're like I think they were the 1 seed or 2
and you
seed.
Whiffed on the number 3 pick, and you took a quarterback.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter. It's going to be fine.
We'll win 10 games.
Caleb Williams, I think the weather maybe knocks him out of my lineups just because I do want the passing more with him, but that Giants secondary still banged up. Adebo's not going to be back, although Flott is supposed to be back, which means it won't be a total dumpster fire in that backfield, defensive backfield. Drake May is my guy. I've got a bet with a couple buddies about who's going to win MVP. We all had to pick one dude. I went with Drake May. Someone else has Baker. This feels like the elimination game for one of them. Like 3 weeks ago, something like that.
I was just curious because I was going to be like, man, if you went up with the Drake May –
at the beginning of the
year, you could have made a bet, bro. I hope you got some money on it.
I wish I had put some money on that. Thankfully, he's on one of my fantasy teams and keeping me afloat.
Oh, I think every league. That was one of my most guys.
That is an interesting game between those two teams, which I think has reasonable shootout potential. Because
are you a little worried about the pass rush of Tampa though? May has been sacked like 16 times the last 3 weeks, and I think it's 17, and Tampa has 16 sacks the last 3 weeks. I do wonder if he's going to be under duress. Because the Atlanta game, it was not great after the really good start. Like the second half was pretty shaky. It wasn't. And that was from consistent pressure.
I agree.
That's what I'm
saying. I would have some reservations. That to me would be more of a like maybe the Tampa Bay defense is a sneaky play than I'm out on Drake May, just because he's been productive with again.
Also, his cost has gone up so much, right? Like it's not like it was a few weeks ago. Kind of like Jackson Dart, where it's just like, look, this dude's going to get me 18 points, and he's in the 5K range. Like, again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's cash. No. It's not GPP where I'm trying to get the best game possible. I want a high floor, not a high ceiling.
Yeah. Well, then on the Baker side of things, it's worth remembering, this New England defense, I think people just automatically with New England, anytime they're good, it's like, oh, well, their defense is good. Their run defense is good.
It's elite, but their pass defense is
not good. No. But again, DVOA, 4th against the run, 28th against the pass.
Did you see what my boy Drake London did to them last week? Woo!
I was quite thankful for what your boy Drake London did last week, because that didn't help me in DFS. I'm not going to pretend I saw it coming.
I didn't have him in any lineups either, so don't feel bad.
But he was in my season-long lineup.
Oh, yeah.
He and Bowers carried me over the finish line there. So, yeah, again, that's a defense where – and the other thing, too, is that pass defense – again, I don't really understand what the thought process was with not having Christian Gonzalez on Drake London in the red zone. It's a weird choice to me.
Well, no, I will say, as somebody who watched the game, the Falcons, who I don't like to give Zach Robinson credit, they did a good job of moving Drake London before the snap on 2 of those touchdown passes in the red zone.
That makes sense.
Where originally Gonzalez was on London, but I think they recognized they were in zone, right? And they just immediately moved him to the other side of the field.
Well, that tracks. So the one thing you do worry about with the Patriots defense is Christian Gonzalez is still good. This is kind of like when Sauce was still on the Jets, where the number 1 receiver might not be the guy who goes off, but everyone else can. And if Baker's proven anything, he will throw to anybody.
Coming off a bye too, right? Tampa's
he'll find them if they're open. And even if they're not, he's going to coming off of a bye, they are. So I think Baker Mayfield's a really interesting play, but I'm probably going to end up mostly going with the guys that you already talked about, where, again, you just look at Lamar, the floor, again, outside of 4 out of 5 games, he's given us 25-plus points. And he costs $6,800. Like you said, that seems too low to me.
Especially with the blitz numbers, right? Like you got the team that's going to blitz almost half the time, and a guy that not like second, third. He's first in freaking everything against the blitz. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see. I want to add with the Stafford, because I thought this was a cool stat. Only the 8th quarterback in the history of the league to have 20 touchdowns and 2 or less interceptions through their first 8 games. 7th quarterback to do it, 8th occurrence. I'm assuming Brady was probably the guy that did it twice. And then with the Baker thing, I do like, if you feel confident enough in Baker, a Baker Otten stack is very cheap when tight ends are a problem. For the Pats, it's probably the worst part of their defense, at least from a fantasy perspective.
It's
and I mean, again, we've seen Otten over and over again when their receivers are really banged up, and you still have no Evans, no Godwin. They got bad news on McMillan, right? Like he's still in a neck brace. So, and Ibuka has kind of struggled, being like the focal point of the passing game. And we saw that with the offense not looking good. But I like, they got to buy. They're healthy. I'm sure they got a good game plan for this week. And I'm with you. I think Baker's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at this point. I trust that he's going to figure it out. So I'm with you there. The backs this week, now that James Cook is good to go, I'll just make this as simple as possible. If you think the Bills are going to beat the Dolphins, and if you don't, we either need to talk about where you're getting your weed, or I need to know if you're like from the future or something, so I can lay some money on the Dolphins. But the Bills are going to win, and when they win, James Cook is good in fantasy as there is. They are 6-0 when he rushes for 100 yards, 0-2 in the games he doesn't. He averages almost 26 points per game in Buffalo wins, and he's already scored 23.8 points against this Dolphins team this season, and it's pretty likely he's going to do it again, considering Miami, they've been a little better lately, but they're still allowing 145 yards per game and 5 yards per carry. And by the way, James Cook, among all running backs in the entire NFL, has the most rushes, at least from a percentage standpoint, of 5+ yards at 43%. So you have a defense giving up 5 yards versus, again, the running back who has the most runs of 5 yards or more. And I think the Bills are going to win. He's been incredible in those games. He is their bell cow, man. I was the biggest James Cook guy in the world. Even I am shocked how good he's been at this level. Like, I never saw this kind of scene. I thought he could be a good pro, but he is arguably like one of the top 2-3 backs in the league. You look at what he's doing in fantasy, he doesn't catch passes, and he's averaging like 23, 24 points per game. It's crazy.
It is wild too, because he was also the guy where he had that first season where he kind of broke out, and I think he had like 1,100 yards or whatever.
Yep.
But he scored almost no touchdowns.
Yep.
And it was like Josh Allen stealing these fucking touchdowns. And then it was like, all right, regression's going to happen. He'll score touchdowns. And he scored like 20 last year. And then this year, it's like, all right, well, now the regression's in the opposite direction. Like, does he actually?
And it's gone the other way, especially with the volume.
And right, that's the thing, is it's not. The touchdowns are still there, but everything else is higher now. It's like it's catching up.
The Bills realized too, Joe, what Kansas City did a long time ago. I get Allen running in the red zone. That's going to happen. But just designing Allen to run it up the gut when you have a good running back, it's stupid. Like, Mahomes got nicked up that one time. They have not tried a QB sneak with Mahomes
They totally bailed. Yeah. They're like, all right, we're going to bring in the tight end. Kelsey, you're going to be the sneak guy. And weird to me that the Ravens do that too, actually, sometimes. They're like, all right, it's the tight end tush.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want Lamar doing it either, right? Like, he's already, like with Allen, he's already running so much. And it's like, why are we, what makes them great is they're elusive. Like, they're hard to, really get a good, clean hit on. Well, when it's a QB sneak, you got all the opportunity in the world to just kill the dude.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, the only 2 games were really James Cook. I mean, last week wasn't the ideal game from James Cook if you put him in the lineup, but you probably shouldn't be putting in a lot of running backs in the lineup against Kansas City defense that's been pretty good.
Oh, by the way, he's the first
still at 100 yards
in 24 regular season games to go over 100 yards versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
But like you said, you're not getting any real passing usage there. He caught one pass for 11 yards. And it was the game where he didn't get a touchdown. And the 2 other games he didn't score a touchdown were, maybe not unsurprisingly, the games they lost to your Falcons and to the New England Patriots. This would be a more shocking loss than when the Falcons beat them. I mean, divisional game.
This is the difference in a Falcons franchise and a Bills, who are both losers. Don't get me wrong. Neither one of us can win the big one. But the Bills are not losing at home to the Dolphins. It is very on brand for the Falcons not only to lose, but to get their ass beat. Like, it did not shock me, Joe. It was depressing and sad and embarrassing, but I was not shocked.
Right. So yeah, I'm with you. James Cook would have to be one of the top options. Obviously, McCaffrey is coming off a 37-point game. You'll always feel good about him. He scored 28 points the last time he went against the Rams, but 9K is just so much.
Dave Eddy is saying, come on, don't forget our saying. Because originally, Joe, I was not going to play him. I was going to see if he brought him up. But Dave Eddy's like, I think my mindset this week for cash is put CMC in and figure out the rest.
I can see. I can see the argument because, well, it's CMC, and
well, the consistency has been unreal.
Right,
and he's running it so much better since Kittle got back. Like it's almost like adding an offensive lineman.
And like I said with Jackson Dart, there's one defense that really scares me that makes me go, I don't know if I want to play guys against them, and that's the Texans, and that's the one team that shut down Christian McCaffrey. And every other game, it's been 22 or more points, and I sandwiched around that terrible Texans game is 42 against the Falcons, 37 against the Giants. Apparently, Christian McCaffrey hates us. So
he hates me because I was playing him in like 3 leagues that week.
So yeah, especially hates you. But yeah, I totally get the argument. There's a reason he costs 9K, and it's not because they're crazy. It's because he is that good. And maybe there is value there because the 9K will scare people.
I think
the Rams,
I think
that's number
what
one ranking scares people.
It's going to scare people. That's exactly, I think, what Dave is getting at.
All makes sense to me.
And the receivers, you can go cheap, I feel, this week. Don't you? Like, I feel pretty good about, like, the receivers 6K and lower and getting both volume and guys with, high upsides. And again, trust me, I will not have the balls to do what Dave is saying and just basically slamming him in every cash game. But I will admit that in my $100 single entry, I'm listening to Dave. Dave's really good at this shit. So if he tells me something like that, I'm just going to be like, okay, maybe I get lucky and pick the right pieces around it. But I mean, his expected fantasy points is what he's talking about. His expected fantasy points are 27 points per game. Nobody else is over 23. And there's only, I think, 3 guys over 20. And I mean,
right. So what you're saying there is he's basically just hitting the number.
Yes.
Like most of the time, a guy who's averaging 26.4 on DK, as McCaffrey is, you're getting lucky on some stuff.
Yep.
Like something you break one, shock that you broke a 60-yarder here.
Or the Brock Bowers game last week, right? That didn't skewers your average.
Yeah,
right?
you get a bunch of red zone stuff in a couple of weeks that you can't really bank on happening all the time. But yeah, in this case, McCaffrey is producing what you would expect McCaffrey to produce, given how often he sees the ball, given the situations he's given the ball. So yeah, it's not fluky. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. I guess my issue with McCaffrey is that it's the 3 multiplier. It's all right. He gives me 27 points. All right, I hit my 3 multiplier. Like for him to be a true value. Now, don't get me wrong. Having a guy score 27 points even at 9K, that has value because it's 27 points. But for him to have like true, like, oh, he's really helping me win value, he's got to get into the 30s. And he can do that. Again, he's done 2 of the last 3 weeks. But
what kind of game script do you think for this week? Because we were just talking about how the Niners are so bad now against the pass that they're facing Stafford, who is one of 8 quarterbacks to throw 20 touchdowns and 2 picks through their first 8 games. The first game was a shootout. I think it's very likely it happens again. And if you think
7-8 receptions are coming down the pipeline.
Bingo, there you go. Like especially if they get behind. And again, he's been a far better runner since Kittle. It's just funny that, like, literally talking this out, like, I just saw Dave's messages in our Discord about CMC. Like, just figure it out. I started thinking about it, and it was like, he's right. I should have him in my cash, at least some of them, right? And now the more I'm talking it out, the more I'm like, I do think that's probably the play, especially with the other expensive guys to me are much more risky. Like, even JSN, I think it's more likely, right, that he does, because he's only $100, I think, cheaper, right? Any 8,900 or 88. So we'll see. I'm assuming you have Dottle on your list, right? Like Dottle to me is the must play. You have to play him.
Dottle, yes.
Okay. I mean,
100%.
Do you want me to go over the easiest way to kind of look at this? He's had 3 games with 20 plus carries. Last week was the first one, obviously, with him and Hubbard both playing. In those 3 games, he's averaging 173 rushing yards and 31.3 points per game on DraftKings. Since week 5, he's rushed for 633 yards. 454 have been on inside runs. Carolina has a great offensive line. New Orleans has a weak defensive line. And if he's gonna get like what he did last week, where he saw 83% of the rush attempts, most importantly, all the rush attempts inside the 5-yard line, and get a 15% target share, which freaking Hubbard only got 25%. I mean, Dottle, to me, again, if you're saying I can only have like one guy that I'm going to put in every single lineup this week, it would be Dottle.
Yeah, adjusted line yards from FTN. Panthers offense, 6th. And then in run blocking grade from PFF, 3rd. Again, one of the big turnarounds for this Panthers team into, playoff contention right now. I don't know.
They're good, man.
But, they should win this week, and then they're really, they're going to be going down to the wire probably, unless they just faceplant. But, yeah.
As a Giants fan, do you want to hear something funny, Joe, about the Cowboys?
Sure.
Dottle's 2 touchdowns last week gave him 4 on the season, which now ties the rushing touchdowns he had in 3 years in Dallas. They're really good talent evaluators over there, I'm telling you. How about them Cowboys?
They're good about bringing talent in. They're just not so good about keeping it around or
identifying
or keeping it around at a reasonable price either. So that's again. I think they draft. I think they're an above average drafting team. It's the guy who makes the contract decisions is not very good at it.
Hold on real quick, because NY wanted to know.
Yeah,
he has not left the channel. If you will join our Discord, Dave is in there, talking DFS. Doing what Dave does. And I'm serious. Like, I feel bad I don't respond on there as much and post in there, but I do a lot of content, both video and written. So I feel like, my takes are out there. Dave does all of his in there. He's one of the best in the business. Let me know if you have any problems figuring out how to do it. You can just hit me up on Twitter if you do, at Keith Flemming. But no, he's still doing it. He just, he's been doing it a long time, and Dave said that he wanted to really just concentrate on the members and do the Discord, and it's a great value for the people that are members to it. Yeah, sorry, Joe. Go ahead, buddy.
So, yeah, obviously we recommend doing so. But, the Panthers O-line, it's turned itself. That's been a huge part of this becoming a functional offense. It's why I can't say – and there's probably not a lot of Bryce Young believers, but it's why he looks competent more often than not.
And even when he doesn't, Dottle went bananas last week.
Right, it doesn't matter because
a pick.
The O-line and Dottle now are like, fuck it, we'll carry it to the finish line as long as the defense plays okay. And that's exactly what should happen here. Facing an offense in the Rams that's not very good. I think they're worse because of the QB change. And maybe down the line that won't be true, but right now I'd say it is. And yeah, again, this is defense, at least by FTN's numbers, that you would say has been overachieving against the run. And this is, bottom 10 on DK against running backs already. O-line that's good. And then a running back who's seemed possessed since taking over that job. And again, we were all worried, like, all right, does this become too much of a timeshare? And for like 1 week, it would seem like that might happen. And then it was like, no, they had enough sense. They had eyes. They saw that he was the better running back. And
well, didn't it feel good to see him do it against somebody other than the Cowboys and Dolphins as well? Because that was my other concern. Is like that's two of the worst run defenses in the league. The Green Bay is much better versus the run. And again, they weren't even throwing the ball with any success, and he still ran for 130 yards and 2 scores.
Right. Obviously that Bills game, it's kind of like a throw it out game because they were just getting ravaged. But even there, it's like the problem was he only had 8 carries because they were losing by 30 points the whole game. He got 54 yards in the 8 carries. So, yeah, I think Dottle's like lock him into every lineup. For me, my major combo probably this week is just going to be going Cook Dottle. I will say Achane against Buffalo is also an interesting one.
His targets since Tyreek's gone out is, you want to talk again about a high floor.
We love it.
That's Achane.
And then another defense that, this, I feel like it's classic Bills most years, where it's like, Bills can't really stop the run.
Well, if you can score on them, you're fine, right? But if you can't keep up with their offense, you don't get the option to run. So in a lot of ways, it makes sense to me with these great offenses are like, look, we're going to kind of just give away to the run. Good luck, though, keeping up with us in points if you're trying to run the ball.
And the whole thing with this Buffalo defense against the run, again, at the line of scrimmage, not terrible. 4.1 adjusted line yards, which is above average, 9th in the NFL. Problem is their actual yards per carry to running backs is a whole yard higher because they are terrible at tackling downfield. Open field grade, which is, I believe, second level grade is 5 to 10 yards downfield, and then open field on FTN is 10 plus yards. On those two, they are 28th and 31st.
Woo.
So again, and is Devon Achane a guy who can take advantage of poor tackling downfield? If you've ever seen him play, the answer is yes. So he's an interesting one. I'm honestly put one of those top 4 guys into your lineup, whichever one you want. Pair him with Dowdle, and that's my running back plays this week. I will say if Swift seems like he's playing.
Well, I got 2 guys I wanted to talk about.
Kyle Monangai
that's
is going
one of
to
them.
every single lineup because, again, you want to talk about a team that's not tackling down the field, or if they even touch the guy. It's the New York Giants. Because I just said, a yard higher for Buffalo. The Giants' adjusted line yards are 4.7. They're 28. So they're already bad at the line of scrimmage. Already a problem. 5.9 yards per carry for running backs, which I think went down last week, which is insane because did you see how productive Christian McCaffrey was? We put 37 points of DK on us. So, yeah, if Monangai is in the lead back role again, if Swift is out, which he did not practice today, but he
did you see the comments by the coach too? No. Ben Johnson came out and said that he is not afraid to ride the hot hand. Like, to me, it kind of sounded like he's going to at least get a chance to go out. And if he balls, look, like Swift's been good, but he ain't been that good. His 2.47 yards over expectation per rush attempt, most of any NFL back in week 9. The guy that I really want to get, because I agree with you 100%. Like if Swift's out,
the other thing too, I want to throw out real quick.
Yeah,
now,
of course.
Obviously, he just looked awesome against the Bengals. Bengals are fucking awful. 2 worst teams in yardage allowed before contact. Worst, looking at it from a defensive standpoint, the Bengals and the Giants. Those are the 2 teams that allow you to get the most yards before
contact.
Who's
first and who's dead last and who's second to last?
I believe I don't have it right in front of me because I read it earlier, but based on the adjusted line yards number from FTN, the Bengals are at 5.5. So, and their actual yards per carry is 5.5. So their downfield tackling is like average. The problem is they don't hit anyone until they're a couple yards downfield. But yeah, those are the 2 worst. So if Monangai gets the opportunity again, this is not the week where he comes back down to earth, especially like you said, cold, windy game sounds perfect for him.
I just love his last name, Monangai. That's amazing.
It's fun to say, yeah. Now we know how to say
he's my Monangai. The guy I wanted to ask you about, because I really think this is a potential boom play, be low owned, another really bad defense, and that's Quinshawn Judkins, 6,600 against the Jets. Another game that's going to have pretty bad weather. Point. He was banged up week 8 versus the best run defense in the NFL, the New England Patriots. Yeah. And he got a bye to rest up. He scored 16.5 points or more, 4 of his last 6. 2 of those 4 games, he scored 16 plus points versus top 10 defenses. The only bottom 10 defense he's faced this season prior to facing the Jets, who are the 7th worst. He destroyed the Dolphins, scoring 26.4 points, scoring 3 times. New York allows 135 rushing yards per game, and they're coming off a game that not just Chase Brown, but Chase Brown and Sammy Pirine combined for 167 yards on just 21 carries. And don't forget, they traded away by far their best defender against the run in Quinnen Williams this week. And I also have real concerns about the Jets moving the ball versus the Browns, because the Browns are a great run defense, so I don't see Breece Hall going. They get a ton of pressure on the quarterback in passing situations. We saw the Broncos sack Justin Fields 9 times. All of that equates to Jukins getting a monster workload versus a really bad defense off a bye in a bad weather game. Like, I could see this. Like, it would not surprise me if all of he has 25, 30 points at 6,600.
I mean, the one thing that you could say about the Jets before this week, because now I think it is in question, is this was really a horrible defense against the pass. It was Sauce Gardner and trash. And against the run, they were actually okay. The problem was they're losing every single game, so the volume overwhelmed at a certain point, and obviously works out great for fantasy. Like you said, you just traded away probably the most important player in your run defense.
They said a lot of places, I think, said that he's probably the third best defensive tackle in the NFL versus the run. Like, that's the kind of impact he has.
Right. I think that if you're a Cowboys fan, you're like, wait, why are we going all in?
A pass rusher.
Yeah, it's like that seems like the thing that's a more pressing need. Obviously, they've been bad against the run, but in general, pass defense is more important.
As the Jets trade away the best pass rusher in the NFL, 26.
And the Jets could probably attest to that, because their run defense, like I said, has been pretty good. Pass defense has been terrible, and they're at the bottom of the league. So, but yeah, now you're removing him. Yeah, I think now that gets a lot more interesting, because before I would have been like, well, 6,500, it's kind of expensive against a defense. It's actually okay against the run, but now we don't know if it's still a solid defense against the run.
Also, big potential let-down game. I know you believe in that kind of stuff. The Jets had an unbelievable, come from behind victory. Like, seriously, that was one of the best comebacks I've ever seen. And I can see them laying an egg the next week, right? Like, they're the Jets. We've seen what this team is.
I mean,
and they just traded away their best 2 defenders.
That is the fascinating part of this game, is it's just 2 franchises that feel built to just let you down. And so there's a part of me that's like, what if the Jets just win? Because everyone's going to be like, they traded away their 2 best guys. They're going to lose. What if this is like an Aaron Glenn? This is my coaching moment. I rally the guys. We get this win. And then probably it doesn't go well from there, because you play teams that have better quarterback play than the Cleveland Browns. But I could see anything happening here, but I think it's
you see the Jets really moving the ball in a game that's supposed to have rain and be cold like that. Is a recipe for.
I meant winning the game. I got you. Totally possible.
No, I got you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
If they win 27-24, I'll be shocked.
Yeah, no.
But if they win 16-13, I'll be like, I'm not surprised.
I got you. Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to make the argument that Myles Garrett gets 4 sacks in this game, the Jets can't move the ball, and Cleveland intelligently just says, let's run the ball 40 times, and they win this game, 17-6, and Judkins goes for $120 and a touchdown. I think that's one of the more likely scenarios. So I don't like him more than Dowdle. So you'd have to either be putting him into a flex, or you'd have to be doing something else with your wide receivers, going expensive there. But I do think it's a very reasonable play. If I'm choosing between them.
I think you make a lot of sense. Like I said, the 2 lineups, at least for back-wise, what I've been doing so far is either Cook and Dowdle and just playing 2 backs, or playing Jukins, Dowdle, and CMC. And then again, just spending really down at receiver. And again, going obviously with Dart at quarterback. The wide receivers this week, again, there's 2 guys above 6,100 I feel really good about. JSN, duh. What are we doing at this point? All their, not only that, I know they just got Rashid Shaheed, and what a perfect trade, for a team that's trying to be contender. Seriously, just Sam Darnold's got to be in heaven. But they've got 2 other receivers that are out. So JSN, even with Shaheed there and probably getting, a decent amount of targets, he's still going to get feasted over his last 4 averaging 10 targets, 8 receptions, 136 yards, and just under 29 points per game on DK. First player since OBJ to have 4 straight games with 8+ receptions and at least 120 receiving yards. He is a freak. The other expensive guy is Davante Adams versus San Francisco, 7,700, coming off consecutive 20+ points games on DK. He's caught an absurd 5 touchdowns in that span. Like, that is insane. His 20 red zone targets this season is the most among wide receivers, 6 more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is second. The dude is literally averaging 2 end zone targets a game. Like, that is, I mean, and
we'll take that.
Yeah, well, no surprise with that. Only CMC, Jonathan Taylor, and Jamar Chase average more expected fantasy points per game than Adams, who's at 19.2. So we're kind of seeing, like, Adams is all of a sudden starting to have really big games. That is actually not really the outlier if you believe in expected fantasy points. It's actually, he was underscoring what he should have been scoring early in the season, and now he's getting back closer to what his number is and even exceeding it. And this is just a great matchup. Like, Puka's banged up. I'm sure he's going to play. I'm sure he's going to be great. He's freaking Puka Nacua.
Right. He'll be good as long as he's on the field.
A little bit less on the field maybe, or, say he gets nicked up. I just think there's both a high floor with Adams, and then there's several scenarios. If this game goes the way we're thinking, he could go freaking bananas at 7,700.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I really like the Stafford play, and you could throw either receiver in there, and I think you're going to feel pretty good. I mean, Puka's been automatic, but again, that's 8,700, so you're talking about an extra grand. And like you said, I mean, I think both of us were pretty optimistic about what Davante Adams would look like in this offense, and it's been pretty consistent. Now, it hasn't always been.
He's feeding families, Joe, in the fantasy football world.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like you said, 5 touchdowns the last 2 weeks is crazy. Obviously, you can't keep that up forever, but Puka
if you're getting 2 end zone targets a game, it's possible. Banged up.
Yeah, that's true. Especially with a quarterback as talented, and if you're as talented as Davante Adams is. Again, this is a guy who, he's playing with Aaron Rodgers, who's obviously.
You called it. Like, he still was getting open. Like, the metric said he's getting. And Stafford is maybe the most accurate quarterback in the NFL that actually has the ability to really push it down the field. Like, I know that technically Darnold throws moonballs. Stafford throws lasers. And when you have somebody like Davante Adams, like, it's exactly what you said going into the season. Like, this is a condensed offense, right? We know that. And it's basically became they throw to Puka and they throw to Adams, and then they run in a bunch with Kyron and Corum. And that is literally their offense. Everybody else gets scraps.
And per FTN, only a 9-yard difference between number 1 and number 2 wide receivers against the San Francisco defense. So that'd be another one. I know man zone splits. San Francisco plays more zone. Both guys are better against man, which is probably not shocking because, Godspeed trying to cover Davante Adams or Puka Nacua one-on-one. But was super productive against zone because these are 2 elite wide receivers with an elite quarterback. Yeah, I think at minimum one of those guys is going to have a huge game. And if it's both, that wouldn't surprise me either. So, yeah, I like going for the guy who's $1,000 cheaper. Not that I'm saying, like, stay away from Puka. But, again, it's like the triple thing. We got to get 27 minimum for Puka to feel good about it. 22 for Adams. That's 5 points, which, maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but it's just so much easier to justify the price there.
Again, it's 19.2 expected fantasy points. So you're talking about he just needs to go over that number by 2. And by the way, Puka's expected fantasy points on the season, 17.1. So he's got over 2 points and expected. It's because he gets so much more volume in the red zone.
Now, I'm going to throw in another guy in this high-end range, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown against Washington. Now, I admittedly would feel better if it was Jaden Daniels on the other side and
if the weather was better, right? That's another game.
Yeah, this is a home game for Detroit. You're going to feel better. So there are reasons why you could temper expectations, but at the same time, as the man zone splits guy, boy, Washington 8th in man rate. 30% of the time they're in man. Amon-Ra St. Brown against zone. 26% target rate, 0.46 points per fantasy route run. Was it like 2.3 yards per route run? Those are all really good numbers against zone. So numbers against man, 35% target rate, 1.21 fantasy points per route run. So every route he runs against man, he is averaging over a point. 65 routes, 227 yards. Like, he destroys man defense. And this is a defense that's playing man again at a top 10 rate and not really covering anyone very well. PFF coverage grade, only the Dallas Cowboys are worse. And God, we certainly have all seen how bad they are. So that's how bad this team has been coverage-wise. And again, that's the beauty. If you get a team that's bad in coverage and they play a lot of man, it's so you have any good wide receiver is going to destroy it. So now, again, the worry would be it's 34-3 at halftime. And then nothing. And then it's David Montgomery time.
Haven't they played in some of those games, though, that he's putting up decent point totals? Because I know he's been a quiet monster this year.
Again, his best game of the year, which maybe there's a little extra motivation in that game. But it was that Bears game that they won 52-21. And he scored 42 points. And then, Cleveland, 26 points. That was a game they won by 24 points. So now, I will say a lot of those games were home games. So the thing we always remember about Goff is we don't believe in him quite as much if he's outdoors.
He's gotten better, though, outdoors, like in the last year. I got to admit.
He's legitimately become a better quarterback over the last couple of years. And the fact that he's doing it this year without Ben Johnson also makes you feel more confident in his ability. But yeah, just to me, you get a defense that overwhelmed against a guy with that talent. I'm getting pretty excited about that one. Now, do I end up putting Devontae Adams in after you talk me into it and giving me these red zone stats, or he's getting all these end zone shots in a game that I think has a better opportunity to be a shootout? All right, maybe that happens, but I think I'm going to be throwing at least one of these guys into my lineups because I do think the opportunity is there.
You called the man zone split last week with Higgins. I pushed back. You stood your ground, and you showed me. So I hope other people listen to you.
We're at the time of the year where that stuff matters now. Because like week 4, I'm like, this is what we got. But they ran 18 routes against man, and so who knows? But now it's like, all right, we've got real data to work with. And, Amon-Ra being good against man is probably not.
That's a tell us oldest time.
Yeah.
So there's 2 receivers that will be probably in every lineup. For me, the first is Zay Flowers, 5,900 at Minnesota. Again, I love Lamar. Flowers, with Lamar returning last week, led the Ravens in targets, receptions, and yards. He had more receptions and receiving yards than the other Ravens wide receivers combined, and his targets matched the total of all other Baltimore receivers. So he's going to be the receiver getting the ball. In the 5 games started by Jackson this season, 36 targets, 28 receptions, averaging 15 points per game on DK. And don't forget, this Vikings D starting to struggle with wide receivers, particularly facing quarterbacks who are good against the blitz. Another guy, not as good as Lamar, but's been excellent this year, is Jalen Hurts. You may remember Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown went absolutely nuclear versus them. The Vikings D, just over their last 3, has allowed to opposing wide receivers 38 receptions for 607 yards and 6 touchdowns. If Minnesota can score points, which we'll see how much this Baltimore team has actually improved, I really think Zay Flowers has a chance for a monster game. What I like about him is I think he has a really high floor for a guy 5,900. The other dude is Demario Douglas, 4K at Tampa. Despite not exceeding 25% of New England's offensive snaps in the last month, he saw 14 targets, caught 11 passes for 232 yards and 2 scores. That is a 28.6% target per route run. And then don't forget, by the way, averaging nearly 5 yards per route run in that time span that last month, 4.89. And then the best part about this is Kayshon Boutte is out. So I would assume he's going to run more and be on the field more than 25% of the snaps. And again, May is targeting him 28% of the time when he runs a route. So at 4K, and we've seen again, Falcons are a pretty good pass defense in secondary, and he had a monster game versus Atlanta, and he has the benefit of Diggs taking obviously typically like their best corner or, most coverage. So again, Flowers and Douglas are going to be basically in every lineup this week. And I think Douglas is one of the best values on the entire slate.
Yeah, worth mentioning that Tampa Bay is a pretty even split, ranking-wise, on man versus zone. Again, I think I mention this every week, but almost every defense plays a significant more amount of zone than they do man in today's NFL. But when they are in man, Demario Douglas has actually been he's a man eater. That's right. Second on the team in target rate to Stephon Diggs at 24% against man, and actually slightly ahead of Diggs, 0.69 in fantasy points per route run. Per PFF, they're both top 10 against man in points per route run this season. And his zone numbers are not as good, but they're still perfectly solid. So more opportunity, a guy that we've seen be productive before. Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense to me. With the Zay Flowers thing, I mean, again, if people remember last year's Vikings team, that was a Vikings team that was forcing a lot of turnovers.
Yep.
You looked at a lot of statistics. It's like this is one of the better defenses, but was giving up a ton of yardage, usually to wide receivers. So I like that play as well. Again, I'm definitely monitoring the weather because you're always much better at reminding me to hey, weather matters this time of year.
Yeah.
So this might not be the slam play it would be otherwise, but I'm buying the Rome Odunze bounce back game this week against my Giants. Another guy with
another man zone split, Joe. I know where you're going. Another man
zone split. And of course, the Giants are one of the if you're better against man,
yep.
Get ready for the money to come in because second in the league in man rate. Again, Paulson and Debo not coming back this week. Cordell Flott is, which helps a little bit. So at least one of our corners won't suck. Or at least outside corners. And then Javon Holland's questionable. So if Javon Holland doesn't play, then that means we're still down 2 DBs. And it's not like this defense has been stopping people in general anyway. But yeah, Odunze, target rate jumps 8% going against man. Fantasy points per route run. 0.01 away from doubling. From 0.32 to 0.63. He and Luther Burden have been the most productive. But again, sample size, Luther Burden's is based off of 9 routes. Rome's is based off 61 routes against man. I still think he's the most talented receiver on this team. I am at a loss as how he scored 0 points in a game where the team almost scored 50 last week. Again, thank you to Brock Bowers and Drake
Sometimes
London
it be that way, Joe Matz. We can't explain it. It just is.
So he's going to be going in a lot of my lineups. And I will just, throw out there just so that we're on the record with it with JSN, the best guy against zone defenses in the league this year, and Cardinals top 10 in zone rate. So don't expect it to stop this week. Whether it's worth 8,600, that's up to you. But I think you chalk him in for 20 plus. I mean, shoot, outside of maybe the Texans, I don't know who I would say don't chalk him up for 20 plus, but I would feel extremely confident you're going to get another super productive game from him. But like we said, all those guys up top, it's who can you justify the price with? And that's why I keep coming back to your Devontae Adams play is making more and more sense to me.
All right. I co-sign all of that. Let's do some questions, and we'll do the tight ends defense really quickly and let you get to dinner. Our boy Chad said he's thinking about punting at QB. Which trio would we rather have? Obviously, I'm assuming he means, GPP. For me, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think I would go Brissett, Marv, McBride. He has been throwing so much as of late to Marv and McBride. That is basically what Brissett is doing. That is partly why the Cardinals' offense, in my opinion, has been so much better with him at the helm the last 3 weeks. Is Harrison's coming off his best game of the season. Seattle's also an elite run defense. I think they're going to score points on Arizona, putting in them a heavy throw script. And then the added bonus of the fact that it's just I can't trust like Buffalo, Miami. It's going to be cold. We know how Tua is. Like I love Achane. He's got a lot of upside, but I don't trust Tua and Waddle. I love Dart, but I don't trust Theo and Wandale in a weather game. And so that kind of, if we're going by those, three trios, I would go Brissett, Marvin, McBride, and I also think they're probably the lowest owned of those trios. So if it's a GPP contest, you want to differentiate it anyway, because if you have, three players that everybody's stacking, that's not a good thing.
I do like that question because it's kind of like I like the mix and match because I'm like, well, the quarterback I like the most is Dart, and the quarterback I like the least is Tua.
People send us too many of these questions, Joe. It would take us an hour just to answer like 4 of them.
Right. Because, I'm like, Dart I like the most, but then I'm like, do I, Theo.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, I don't know. And then, Tua, I love Achane. You can talk me into Waddle, but man, like you said, Tua in the outdoors. Whereas the Seattle defense is the one
with the Bills having 3 top 10, top 20 pressure leaders right now on their defensive line. Like the Bills get after the quarterback.
The Seattle defense definitely scares me a bit. But if you're a Cardinals fan, you're feeling, I think, probably kind of good that Brissett's staying at quarterback for now, with Murray going on the IR just as another. What's the video game he always plays? Blanking on it. Ruining my joke here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading Jamie's question because who is Wubba Lubba Dub Dub? I don't know who that is.
I assume that. No, I mean that just makes me think of Rick and Morty, though. But
that's what I was thinking.
I don't know who that actually is. But what's the video game?
The show last week was Rubba Dub Dub.
What's the video game that Kyler Murray? The everyone's worried about him playing all the time.
Oh, it's the shooting game, right?
Right, which I don't play those games. That's
I don't either.
I can't remember. But a new one comes out on the 14th, so it's like, all right.
So he just
keep him on the IR.
Y'all can have a chance to win. I'll play Call of Duty at the house. Look at me, I got there eventually.
There you go, Call of Duty. So I think on that last question, I think I would lean with you on the Cardinals, even though that Seattle defense kind of scares me.
So Chad's got one more question, and he actually was. Or Jamie was trying to help us too. Thanks, Jamie. I should have looked in the comments. He got there a lot quicker than I did.
We appreciate it.
Any worry, it just ends up being a Henderson Jennings May run game against Tampa, and Douglas just goes like 4 for 45. Absolutely, that could happen.
Oh, sure.
But again, he's 4K. So even if he had 4 for 45, that's not the end of the world for a guy. I mean, think about like the people you're playing in the 4K range. And I do think that's his floor with Booty being out this week. He's going to, again, I had to go check that. Like, I did not believe he hasn't played more than 25% of the snaps. That is true. And then when you do the math, if you see how many times he's been targeted for his routes run in that span, like 28% is a ton. I mean, if say he doubles, right? Like the offensive snap, he ends up playing 50% of snaps this week. I mean, his expected points would skyrocket. So I still think he's a safe play. And I do worry that the Patriots don't have the ability to just run it down anybody's throat. I'm just going to be 100% honest. I don't trust that.
Last week felt like one of the first times all year they've been able to do that. And really, I mean, your defense has been much better against the pass than the run.
We're bad versus the run. We've just been up in a lot of games and able to kind of dictate the game script. But no, we struggle with the run. Look what CMC did to us.
And it is worth remembering, Drake May's thrown for at least 200 yards in every single game this year. So at least one of those Patriots guys, now obviously, I think you'd look at Diggs and Henry, and they're the kind of the two obvious guys. But at least one, if not multiple guys, are always going to be productive on that Patriots receiving core because Drake May's thrown for 200. And again, it hasn't always been high volume. He has a 200-yard passing game where he threw 17 passes, 23 passes, 23 passes, 24 passes. Like, again, the efficiency has been crazy. And now I will say a lot of his best production is, I think, after Sam Darnold, he's been the most productive downfield passer. And that's not necessarily the Pop
Again,
Douglas
Joe,
way.
the last month, nearly 5 yards per route run. That's a pretty big sample.
Okay. You're talking, I was in, and now you're talking me even more back in. But yeah, I think like you said, 4 for 45, we wouldn't be shocked if that happens. And it turns out it's a big Diggs game or it's a big Henry game.
Yeah.
Or maybe the run game keeps going for the first time all year. I think last week was their most productive run game already. So
not a coincidence.
Again,
I don't. Stevenson wasn't anywhere near that backfield.
Don't super believe in that run game until I see it with consistency, but I do believe in the pass game. So I really like having at least one New England guy in your lineup because none of them are expensive. But he's the cheapest. And now if he's, instead of seeing 25%, if he sees 75% of the snaps, I think 12 is nothing. And like you said, if we end up with 8, okay, that doesn't sink us. As long as the rest of our guys do well, we're fine.
And it's, again, another game that there's no concern about the weather. We'll do tight ends and defense really quick because I know you got to get out of here. Again, as you heard, I like a lot of expensive players at running back, wide receiver, etc. You have to make sacrifices at that point, and tight end's one of them. Like, I actually like a lot of the guys in the 4K range, but because I have to save money, there's 2 people. I'm either going to play Dalton Schultz versus Jacksonville. He has caught 17 passes on 21 targets, almost 200 yards since the bye. That's over a 3-game stretch. And this Jags D, again, I know it was Brock Bowers, but him and Mayer combined for 15 for 153 and 3 touchdowns. But even before that, they had allowed 60-plus yards and a touchdown in 3 of 4 of the previous games to opposing tight ends. So they're just awful versus tight ends. Davis Mills starting, I think, makes it even more likely that Schultz gets targeted a little bit more. But if you want to punt, and I feel pretty good about this, I'm not going to lie. I know the matchup is about as bad as it gets, but old Greg Dulcich, or how do you say his last name? How do you say
Greg Dulcich.
Dulcich. 2,600. I mean, he saw a target on 26% of his routes that he ran last week. And he ended up with 9.9 points, tight end 18. We've already seen Miami revive one tight end's career in Darren Waller. And that reminds me, especially if we see it again this week, of Jonnu Smith. Do you remember I got on that train earlier than anybody last year with the same team, ladies and gentlemen. As much as like we make fun of him, McDaniels is really good at scheming offense, right? And if you give him somebody that is a tough person to defend, which tight ends are the way he utilizes them if they're athletic, they can pop off. 2,600, you're talking about he needs 6.8 points. He scored 9.9 last week. I think Miami's going to be down is the other thing. It's going to be a heavy throw strip because Buffalo's offense is so good and their defense sucks. He's going to be in a majority of my lineup because it just saves so much money, and I feel pretty good about it.
You're talking me into it. You're talking me into it. I mean, again, I feel like it's got to be a situation where you need the money. Like you have to have spent up to your max elsewhere because it is a risk. But 2,600, if that, like you said, if that gets you a CMC James Cook lineup,
CMC JSN lineup,
yeah. Obviously, I will shout out the expensive guy, Trey McBride. Again, I feel like this is every year. It's like no matter how good, whether Seattle's defense is okay, whether it's one of the better defenses in the entire NFL, like it is this year, Seattle always seems to struggle covering the tight end. FTN's numbers I know the numbers vary because I look at CPS and FTN, but they're giving up 69, 70 yards per game to tight ends. They're a bottom 5 team. And obviously, as we've said about Trey McBride, even as Marvin Harrison seems to be ascending, last 3 games, 33 targets for McBride, a low of 9, and a touchdown in all 3, and 2 touchdowns against Green Bay.
McBride's figured it out, and it's not that freaking hard. Throw the ball to McBride a bunch.
And again, he falls into that classic thing where we've said, how is there a receiver who costs $6K that you feel better about? Again, I really like Adunze at $6K, but he's
Flowers would be the one guy I think I like
0.
slightly more.
Flowers. So like he's right there with those guys to me. But if we need, I do also want to say I really wish Kyle Pitts. It feels weird to say this after we wrote him off, but he's won his way back into my heart. Against that Colts defense, I really wish that game was on our slate.
I completely agree. Because I also would love to have Jonathan Taylor against my Falcons run D.
Yes, exactly. I'd just lock both of those in.
We're undersized defensive line versus the best offensive line in football, and arguably one of the 2-3 best backs. So it's going to be a bad time.
Another guy I'd be looking at, Juwan Johnson at 3,700 against the Carolina Panthers.
Is that what you're thinking?
Oh yeah, he has 19 targets over the last 3 games. He actually has broke 50 yards in 2 of those games. He only has the 1 touchdown in the 3 games, but 3 straight games in double-digit points. So if we actually were to get a combination of one of those games where he gets 50 yards and the touchdown, then we could be really talking.
Well, we saw that earlier this year, didn't we? Like he had a couple of big games, if I remember, to start the season.
I mean, against San Francisco, 15.9. He's first 3 weeks of the season, 3 double-digit games. Then he had 3 off. Now he's had 3 on. Hopefully that's not a pattern because I'm talking about him getting a 4th one right now. But Carolina's been awful against tight ends as well. By DVOA, this is the worst defense in the NFL against tight ends, and they're bottom 10 in yards allowed. So that's another one to keep in mind. And then, I think again, unless he's facing a defense that's good against tight ends, I'm going to talk about Theo Johnson because he's going to see the targets. Now, whether or not he'll catch the ball is, a tale as old as time for the Giants ever since the Evan Ingram games. It's like, well, the tight end, he'll get the ball thrown to him and he'll probably be open, but will he?
Because that's a cheap stack. If you end up playing dart, you throw him with Johnson. That's why I'm interested that you do like him this week.
Right. And again, 5 touchdowns in the 6 starts with Dart. 2 games he didn't. Philadelphia, which elite defense against tight ends. So the other 4 games against non-elite defenses against tight ends, 5 touchdowns in 4 games.
And maybe no Bellinger again, right?
Under 4,000. And I believe Bellinger is questionable. I'm trying to find him real quick to see if he's on. Oh, no, he is going to play. Which actually means Bellinger also goes on my list.
Yeah. What's he
because
at?
2,500.
Whoa, that might be better than my boy.
So he's only had, 2 good games, 9 points and 18 points in the time that Dart started. But he missed the last game. And again, I'm throwing out the Eagles games because they're good against tight ends. So in the other 4 starts, 2 games where he scored at least 9, which at 2,500, he's easily clearing our 3 times multiplier with just 9 points. So expect another heavy dose of 12 personnel in that game for my New York Giants. And that means Daniel Bellinger could also be a sneaky play that gets you like 10 points for the bare minimum price.
I may punt on tight end and just play Bellinger and Dolch. How do you say it again? I know I can't. I'm an idiot. Dulcich. Come on, Keith. You'll butcher it again. Defense real quick, then you can go enjoy your dinner on the West Coast. I'm going to spend up a little bit. There's 2 defenses I really like. One of them you heard me talk about earlier, which was Tampa Bay. New England, they've been having a terrible time protecting Drake May, which to me makes it even more impressive what he's doing right now. Again, he has been sacked 16 times over his last 3 games, while Tampa over their last 3 has sacked the quarterback 15 times, created 8 turnovers. They're at home. But I'm going to try to spend up if I can find it. I think the Texans at 3,100 are worth it. It's the best defense in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
They excel stopping all facets of the game, every single one of them. Fewest points to QBs, 8th fewest to running backs, 4th fewest to wide receivers, 5th fewest to tight ends. Like, they don't give points to anyone, and I think this is going to be even more of a slugfest because Davis Mills is starting, right? So I think that they know they're going to have to go win this game, and it is a must-win game for the Texans after them blowing that game last week with Denver. So if I can find that $400, I'm going to play the Texans. the Bucks, and I am also okay. I think it's 100 cheaper. The Patriots are also interesting to me, actually, versus Tampa as well.
Well, I would throw in between your
the Browns,
Texans, and Bucks plays. Yeah, the Browns at 2,900 because, I mean, again, we've seen this Jets offense against, teams that are not the Bengals, and it's usually been terrible.
Especially they get pressure, which they can, and can stop the run, which Cleveland can.
And this Browns defense is, there's some ebbs and flows to it. Obviously, the 0 points against Pittsburgh a few weeks back was not great.
Well, it's not great when you're on the field all the freaking time, which like games like that, they were.
Which is
Cleveland
a problem.
3 and out, and they'd punt, and defense is like, I just sat down.
But again, Myles Garrett can legitimately get 5 or 6 sacks on his own, as they proved against the Patriots. So, yeah, you're giving me that against this Jets offense, which is as bad as it gets. I'd feel great there. As always, it's tough with the lower priced ones. If you had to really,
it's a rough week, man. Like it's money, again, who would yours be? I was going to ask you that.
I think it would have to be the Saints, just because the defense is not terrible. It's not a good defense. This is not a horrifically bad defense.
I love it when we're trying to make a case for these. They're not a terrible defense.
I mean, because it's a defense where, like the true problem with that team is that the offense is terrible.
Right.
The defense is like a below average. But, you're facing a Panthers offense, which, like we said, we do love Rico Dowdle. But
so you don't like the Jags, though? The Jags are 2,600 versus Davis Mills. To me, that's also interesting.
That's a good point.
And they already they live off turnovers and stuff anyway.
Yeah, I would say if you're going under 2,500, I'm going the Saints.
That's where you go. Yeah,
and then I think you start to get in some interesting places where, like you said, that Bucs defense has been quite good this year. And even if you believe in Drake May as much as I do, he's going to take some sacks. He's going to do that. That's going to get us points. Feel good about that. The Jags. The Jags defense. Their first game against the Texans, which was against C.J. Stroud, they ended up with 12 points because. They were feasting on turnovers. That's dried up a little bit over the last few weeks, which
did score 12 versus Houston the first time, and that was with Stroud.
Yeah. The whole thing with the Jags is the turnovers because, those first, 5 weeks, they get a turnover in every game, 4 of them. It's multiple. We're loving them in fantasy because they're never expensive. They're always scoring points.
Yep.
And then the last 3 weeks combined, 1 point and 1 turnover. And so, do they force turnovers? This will be a really good game. If not, it could get a little dicey. Although, I think with Davis Mills at the helm,
he looked so bad last week. I remember me being like, "Oh, he's pretty good," and I watched like about 5 minutes of that game last week. I was like, "No, I was for some reason sugarcoating."
Yeah, so I feel like we're safe from the negative game. Like worst case, we get 3 or 4, and we're like, that's kind of a bummer. But if they get a couple turnovers, which they've shown a propensity to, even if again. Turnovers are high variance. They had a hot month. They had a cold month.
And it was you last week, right, that said Tennessee, and we kind of laughed. And they had a pick 6 and punt return for a touchdown. I didn't put them in any lineup.
All it takes
sometimes. That's why sometimes you just punt on defense. But it's just it's backfired on me so many times this year. We're like, my defense will have negative points. Like, do you know how frustrating it is?
Which, again, I do think that is the thing you like there is – the odds of them getting negative points against Davis Mills very low. Even the Saints, they've had one negative game. Fair. It was against Seattle, which maybe start of the year we might have been like, oh, they got -2 against Seattle. They have 40 points. Now it's like, well, because Sam Darnold's the fucking best quarterback in the NFL now.
So and happens when you grow a beard, Joe. You knew that a long time ago. I
figured that out. And so that's the only negative they've had. And the Panthers are not an offense that's super likely to put you in a negative position, and nor, like we said, the Texans with Davis Mills. So I think, if you're saving money, which we most likely are going to be doing, especially with all the high-end guys we talked about this week, those are probably the plays. But if you can get in that 3K range, I think you have to feel awesome about the Texans and the Browns. But I don't think those are not the worst plays we've had to deal with in that 2,500 range where
no.
I have to go Jags or Saints. I'm not going to feel
Jags,
awful where there's been some weeks where I'm like, I guess I'll throw this one in.
The Bucs are 2,700. I think the Bucs at minimum will get 3 sacks versus New England with what they've been doing pressuring the quarterback and what New England's been doing protecting
that would be my expectation as well.
I mean, that's kind of, I feel like the floor with them, which that's nice because you've already almost reached, again, that 3X number. So I know you got dinner to get to, so we're going to just sign off here. As always, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Be sure to subscribe. Man, I struggled with that. I swear I'm not even drinking or anything. To subscribe to the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel, social media channels. You can do the same for me and Joe. And we will see you guys next Friday. Take it easy, guys.